The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Good afternoon. Welcome to Mannin Line on Manx Radio. We're on the air till 1 today. Open line, so it's down to you, whatever you want to talk about. Text 166 177. Email studio@manxradio.com. WhatsApp 166 177. Call 66 13 68. I've got lots of questions. Actually came in just after Gary Cobb was in. Remember the airport director, Gary Cobb, was in last week. But just some questions I'm going to run by you anyway, just for your comment. Realistically, says Jono, when will ATC, air traffic control that is, be manned correctly? And by correctly, I mean with 15 fully quiet and valid air traffic controllers, as they themselves have stated to be the target. I reckon it's going to be 10 years. They said 3 by the Times. Chris Thomas, the DOI minister, said 3 years, he reckoned. And also, as we work towards that, says Jono, when will firstly airport closures during notified hours no longer be required? And when next might radar service closures be a thing of the past? And the other one, can they categorically rule out remote air traffic control operations? Actually, Mr. Thomas alluded to this in the Tynwald debate regarding the motion over the airport in April. Remember, they're having a report put together by York Aviation on the future of the airport and operating models. They talk about how the airport is going to be run. And remote air traffic control operations, i.e. being run from elsewhere. Well, Gary Cobb's not in until later on this year, but that's certainly something that we'll try and put to Chris Thomas, hoping to get Chris Thomas in before the summer ends. And certainly remote air traffic control operation is something that obviously will have implications for the air traffic controllers, no least. Good on Manx Transport. Bus vanning for trialling the electric double-decker bus now, says Richie. They and we urgently need to know the facts of its range on the Isle of Man so as to decide what to do. So a trial is a trial. Whatever they do or don't buy in the future, there at some point in the future will not be any diesels available. So, says Richie, we have to do something, and trialling the electric double-decker bus is a good thing to do. Yesterday, the Douglas North MHK, John Wannenberg, said it's the wrong thing to do. At £500,000 a pop, we've got other things to spend our money on. Well, certainly that ban on fossil fuel vehicles is on the horizon. A note in from Stephanie, and just says, Andy, for tomorrow's Mannin Line, this came in yesterday, last evening, in fact, can you mention many disgusted parents yesterday at the fun fair? Oh, that was yesterday, earlier on yesterday. The music was playing really loud and was full of foul-mouthed, explicit language. Just after 1 o'clock, the place was full of children. Now, was this in particular, was it music that was being played? Sort of rap stuff that's often full of foul and explicit language, or surely it wasn't the operators who were doing it. Anyway, Stephanie, thanks for that on 496. If you witnessed that, or if you were at the fun fair yesterday and they were playing music with explicit and foul language, might be interested to know. I would imagine the operators of the fun fair would like to know what was going on there. So what's happening with the campsites on the Isle of Man? You may have heard this earlier on today. The number of TT visitors choosing to camp during their visit to the Isle appears to have reduced. Well, so say several campsite operators who've told us that numbers are down. So is there anything putting people off? So we'll run round the campsite, first of all to Glen Loch, and here's Peter Quayle.
There's been lots of people just coming for 4 days or 4 nights. The change in programme has some people have been a bit disappointed. They booked thinking they were coming and being able to see the senior. With the seniors changing to the Saturday, they will miss it, which is disappointing. But others have come and they've had 4 days of glorious sunshine, and they've seen 2 or 3 really good races, or a practice in 2 races. So there doesn't seem to be quite the number of bikes that come. We seem to get a lot more motorhomes and vans, which I think that's mainly down to the cost of coming. It's easier for them to come in a van with the bikes in the back. Just the cost of the steam packet are just unbelievably high. And as you say, the cost of living generally has been a major factor in people's ability to have a longer holiday.
We have visitors on site from all over Europe and US, Australia. Yeah, the TT Festival provides a great opportunity.
That, of course, is Anne, who's from Douglas Rugby Club's campsite. So more from Douglas?
The Douglas Rugby Club, because of the proximity where the grounds is at Portachee. The grandstand in central Douglas makes it just the best central location for a campsite, really. We have 500 pitches, which is about 1,200 campers. Each year we try to improve on last year with bigger and better facilities, because without the TT, Douglas Rugby Club couldn't compete at the level it does in the English League, nor provide the professional coaching that's needed.
So there we are, 500 pitches available, 1,200 people at Portachee, the home of Douglas Rugby Club. So it seems that things are changing. So let's go to Onken, and here's John Clegg.
It has been pretty busy, although there is a slight decrease in numbers this year, but it's still all good, happy. It's just slightly less, I'd say. The cost of travel as well is quite high, and but it's quite quiet everywhere, I believe. A lot of the people that are staying here are saying that just astronomical, the prices of the boat. And I think a lot of people had to cancel this year because of the prices of the boat, last minute, because they just couldn't come anymore. There is a decrease in the amount of people, but some people are staying for longer periods. It's I'd say probably about 30% less than last year on the peak days anyway. But we've got people in for longer periods as well, so it sort of balances out a little bit. I think if it was a bit more affordable, I think we'd have a lot more people for longer periods of time. So we've had lots of people just show up on spec and just ask if we've got availability. Even now, towards the end of TT, people are still calling now and asking if there's spaces for a few more days. And so, I mean, it's good that people are still coming on.
Okay, that's from Onka, that's John Clegg. And if you are involved with a campsite, or if you have somebody camping on your lawn at home, what are they saying in terms of the prices that are being charged to come here? I mean, obviously it has to come here. We can't give it away free. We can't give it away free, can we? Right, to Peel then. Francesca Thompson is at Peel in charge.
Around about 350 people in this year, and it's definitely the same people that are coming back from previous years. I think it's financially the climate that we live in, and nobody has the money to travel anymore. People are arriving on site hoping to book because they've got a ferry ticket last minute. Yeah, we're definitely seeing those. But that's the same as previous years. We've had that before. That's nothing new. I feel it was busier in practice week because it's a little bit cheaper to get to the island on practice week. I do think Manx Grand Prix is busier though. It's more about racing. The demographic is different. It's less commercial. I definitely feel it's busier.
That's the story in Peel. A note in from Texter 260, Andy. Laxey Football Club was 97% at the moment, 97% of what it was last year. 3% down, but still holding up. Less in practice week, more in race week than last year. So whether or not changing the format of the races has affected how people, well, many people, of course, will have booked before they knew that things have been changed. So maybe it won't shake down until next year. So we've heard from Glen Loch, we've heard from Douglas Rugby Club, we've heard from Onken, we've heard from Peel. So homestay, always important to many people as that tax-free cash pays for holidays sometimes. So Nigel Jones is from the people who organise Homestay Mikwondo.
It's been a really busy year for registrations, but of course we were starting from a lower base, having come through that COVID period and things. We were up about almost 50 properties. But even now is a really, really busy time with everybody taking their ferry reservations, and now everybody's looking for 2024. The website is remarkably busy at the moment. We've got people looking for 2024, so if anybody wants to renew, now would be a great time. And we've also got people looking for 2025 already. The demand is certainly there. We see an awful lot of first-time visitors are very keen to get everything organised, and people travelling from further afield. Australia and New Zealand is always very popular, but it's all over the world. When we look at the website statistics, the visitors are from everywhere that you can imagine, to be honest. Obviously a lot of European, a lot of Irish, a lot from the UK, South Africa, Australia, New Zealand, Asia. It's everywhere.
Well, it may be too early to speculate, but let's speculate anyway. The changes in the TT, how has it affected us? If you've had people staying for homestay or guests just staying, what are their views, honest views, as to how the changes have affected them? And how do you think this is going to shake down into the future? Of course, we have been helped. Let's face it. We've been helped immeasurably by fantastic weather. Because it's often easy to put bad news to the back of your mind when you're sitting on a very sunny course and it's not raining and the tent isn't wet and your leathers aren't wet and the bike isn't stuck in mud. So, but anyway, let's find out what that is. The number of TT visitors choosing to camp apparently appears to have reduced this year. Onto another subject as well. Justin said, Andy, Mercedes and Petronas are confident. We should discuss the future of EVs in the light of this. Justin, what do you think we need to do in the future? What is your opinion regarding EVs? The government's got the wrong priorities, says Michelle. They should have lowered the boat fare, and the money that was saved could have encouraged longer stays and more money spent in Manx communities. Well, probably the government would say they can't lower the fares because the steam packet is run as a separate business, arm's length, and of course their shareholder is the Treasury, which ultimately is you and me. So it will be interesting, actually, in a couple of weeks' time, because Tim Johnston, the Department for Enterprise Minister, Tim Johnston, MHK, and his Chief Officer, Mark Lewin, are in. And remember, they are responsible for Visit Isle of Man. Visit Isle of Man comes under the Department for Enterprise. So how do we incentivise people to come? Do we use the fact that we own the steam packet, or it's owned at arm's length, to actually discount for people coming to the Isle of Man? Perhaps give them a voucher, indeed. For everybody who comes on the steam packet, if they think they're paying an arm and a leg, why not give them a £50 voucher to spend in places around the Isle of Man, and that could be redeemed by Treasury through the steam packet? Is that something that we could do so people feel the moment they set on the boat as part of their boarding pass, or when they come on board, they get a voucher, money to spend on the Isle of Man? Immediately, there's a positive. They know they spent money, but they could have free money to spend on the Isle of Man. How do we make sure that people have the best experience when they come to the Isle of Man? And do we in fact use the fact that we own the steam packet as something for that? There'll be millions of diesel buses about because nobody will be using them, says Des. Yeah, it's interesting. When the diesel buses, or when the production of diesel buses ceases, if it ceases, when it ceases, what's going to happen to the second-hand ones? Will the use of pre-owned diesel trucks, buses, vans be outlawed, or, well, what will happen in the future? Maybe we should ask the politicians.
Hi Andy, it's Tony B. I've just thought, the climate change groups, all of them, and the green economy and all the rest of them, they're missing a very important fact, that when you're making electric batteries in China, which makes roughly 80% of the world's electric batteries, you're basically supporting an economy which represses people, plus it's not a very good thing to be doing, but they're all driving around in electric cars, and those cars, the vast majority, are getting their batteries from China. Now, you think about that, that's a total anachronism, because China is producing those batteries using mostly power from coal-fired power stations. So how is that helping global warming? Just a thought. I wonder what the answers will be. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Your thoughts, text, email, call and WhatsApp. And yesterday we were talking a lot about play areas. The Councillor Stephen Crellin, the Deputy Mayor, went looking around Douglas play areas and reporting on their condition. However, one of the areas that comes under real focus is the new play area on Douglas Prom, the one that got washed away. Well, apparently, I mean, I don't know, I'm not in the business, how long it takes to build a new play area, but they say it should be installed by the end of this year, by the end of 2023. Councillor Crellin says it's going to be a big project. The new surfacing will be put in place. The park was damaged in 2021, so it's going to be the best part of 2 years until that new play area arrives. It was Storm Barra, do you remember, that did all the damage? It's been closed ever since then. At the moment, it's a green area. This is Councillor Crellin.
We've also got Loch Promenade, which is a green area at the moment because we're waiting for the new park to be installed. Now, that's due as a bigger project now, because originally it was going to be the park and then safety surfacing. Now it's going to be as one big project now, and it's going to be all done in one go. Hopefully that'll be towards the end of the year, so we'll have to see how we get on with that.
Now, if you have a child or a toddler, that's 2 years that play park has been missing. Let's hope it's an absolute gangbuster when it's with us, but it's going to be the winter by the time it's here. You got any thoughts? Julian's with us. Hi, Julian.
Hi, Andy. Yeah, I quite agree with Tony B, and he's in good company. Rowan Atkinson's just done an article in the Telegraph, because, of course, he was an early adopter of hybrids and an electric vehicle for some years now, and he's saying he feels duped by it and says that it's not ready as a technology to be deployed, and he goes into a lot of the things that Tony B has said. So Tony B's in good company with Rowan Atkinson.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, Rowan Atkinson's a well-known petrol head. I mean, he had Formula 3 cars. I think he owned a Formula 1 car at one time, which perhaps had to be sold for the divorce, but that's another matter. But you see, Julian, a lot of these situations are interlinked, and I was talking yesterday about how we get forward in the future, how we negotiate it, how we come to terms with it. Some people, have a fair obsession about green incentives and the green future and net zero and this, that and the other. Closing your eyes to the fact that China has got a bad human rights record, does the fact that they're on this particular net zero bus with batteries, does that give them a free pass to their human rights record?
Well, it's not just the batteries. A lot of the components for the wind turbines and also the modules for the solar panels are all constructed in China. So it's the whole gamut of the green stuff. Just following on yesterday, talking of this, something truly green, and I find it very positive and an exciting article in The Guardian very, very recently, a few days ago. The search to look for online is The Guardian Network of Geothermal Power Stations. And that's reporting on a study from the University of Durham that's been commissioned by the British government. Kieran Mullen MP, who was tasked with producing the report, said, and I quote, "Unlike wind or solar, this technology provides baseload. It is there constantly, and our expertise in drilling in the North Sea means we are well placed to motor ahead." The Durham study identified many deep geothermal sites across England, including Redcar and Cleveland in Middlesbrough, East Lindsey, Hartlepool, Northumberland and Basset Law, Newcastle upon Tyne, North East Derbyshire, the East Riding of Yorkshire, Nottingham and Weardale, County Durham. And just at the same time, the Irish Geological Survey has identified many deep geothermal candidates from the Clare Basin estuary of the River Shannon across Ireland to the Dublin Basin, and they've noticed that it's following the line of the Iapeta Suture, which is that deep fissure that goes all the way from Canada, from Newfoundland, and then it comes across through New Brunswick, Maine, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Connecticut, across the Atlantic, through Dublin, and then it passes, of course, famously at Niarble, through Foxdale, and then off to the east, and then goes across to the Lake District and up through Scotland. And it just occurs to me, we shouldn't be left behind with this technology because, you know, you're talking about something that takes up almost no room, doesn't require, well, wind farms are, I think, 4,000 to 6,000 times the surface area of a traditional power station. Geothermal is a tiny fraction of a power station. So it strikes me that when you said yesterday about we're not making any impetus, well, I think we're going to be left behind because, you know, rather than, you know, for example, the Isle of Man, putting in wind turbines all over the place is going to make us look like a pincushion. We're going to lose our differential offering to the world because, you know, most places now have got these things everywhere. We don't. We don't have massive solar farms all over the place. And, you know, when I was walking on the hills up the west coast of the island, when you look at the concentration, when you look down, you look at the trefoil or you look at the heathers, all that stuff. I mean, you imagine if you're going to have 60 to 100 turbines. Even Dr. David Quirk was saying that 60 turbines would be required on the island, although I don't know quite how that would work when there's no wind. You look at the concentration under your feet of all that nature and you think they're going to be putting 60-foot diameter, 15-foot thick concrete foundations in that will never come out. Loads of them, and you just think, why aren't we just going for something that will give us all the base load we need, and then if Kroger works out okay, we've got that option as well.
Interesting point from that survey from University of Durham. A lot of the areas you mentioned are the old coalfields.
Correct. And they're all following where the Iapeta Suture or its offshoots are going, because it splits and goes off towards North Germany, and then it goes off towards Scandinavia, and then all over the place. So it just strikes me that, you know, we've got a few mines over here as well, which might point to the fact that the Iapeta Suture runs right underneath us, when the Isle of Man, you know, being that uplifted granite. And no need for a volcano either, I think. I don't recall where the nearest volcano is in the UK, but... I'm
trying to think, where do they have earthquakes in the UK? Well, they had one in Blackpool, didn't they, a while back?
Well, I remember as a kid, wasn't it off Anglesey? There was a 4-point something, because I remember a picture coming off the wall or something. I'm sure somebody will remember that. I'm
trying to remember. You mentioned the mines on the Isle of Man, and of course they closed in the 19th century. That's when all the lead ran out. And of course the Isle of Man produced, I think at one time, 40% of the lead that was produced in the British Isles came from the Isle of Man. Ballajora, Laxey, of course, the great Laxey mine, Snaefell mine, the Mackled Head mine, and Ballajora, Dunane as well. So there were plenty of mines. And I don't know whether you remember, but there was a time when they were trying to mine for coal by the Point of Ayre. There was, I think it was just north of Bride, because there's a coal seam that runs down the Mull of Galloway, Stranraer, Dumfries and Galloway along there. And they said it actually came onto the Isle of Man. They sank they sank a mine and couldn't find it, but what they did hit was that massive brine lake under that strait between the Isle of Man and Scotland, and that's where the Ramsey salt works came from. So we do have riches underground. It depends how deep and who's prepared to go for it.
Yeah, and of course, you know, if certain places are hotter than others, Larderello, it is shallower, but drilling technology has come on in leaps and bounds. Quace Energy are now saying that they've done test bores down to 20 kilometres, or 12 miles down, whereas United Downs, for example, in Cornwall and the Eden Project, they're down at about 4 kilometres.
Okay.
And I think they're seeing upwards of 170 Celsius, which is giving them massive amounts of hot water, which is one of our main problems when it comes to heating. We need a lot of energy to heat homes, especially at our latitude. So.
Okay, right. Marks out of 10 then for TT so far, 2023, Julian?
It's good. Very sad to hear the news yesterday at Alpine, but in general, we got the good weather. A little bit of fog yesterday. No, it's good. It's great. Long may it continue.
All right. Thanks, Julian.
Thanks, Andy. Cheers.
Okay, and Howard's on. Hi, Howard.
Hello, Andy. Just following on from Julian, I was looking on the internet the other day. China, of all places, what you would think, with all their coal-fired power stations, etc., they are drilling down to up to 32,000 feet. And not only are they looking for geothermal, but various other minerals as well, which is hopefully going to keep them back in,
I saw that. Isn't that the deepest hole in the world that they're digging?
No, well, yes and no, because there is a deeper one in Russia, but that was closed down many years ago. That went down to 40,000 feet, I think. But that's a long way down, but 32,000 feet, and they are drilling at the present moment. And I can't remember exactly how far they're down, but they're nowhere near their achievable goal. And at the moment, the temperature's sitting at 118 degrees centigrade, which is, we would term as being hot. And the Isle of Man, as it is little more than the size of a decent-sized city. And it could be, if you're working out in theory, quite easily supplied by thermal power, because we already have the infrastructure in from more or less a central power station, and the infrastructure's here, so there'll be nothing major. You would just have electricity from a different source if you were able to put one decent geothermal power station in an area on the island, and that would please all the green people all in one foul swipe, because that way then you would have the fossil fuels eliminated for generation. But one of the things you were saying, and I find this hard to believe, that the bus, I've seen the bus, it's a blue bus. And strangely enough, I mentioned to Howard yesterday, the single decker was down at the NSC in the car park there, the park and ride one. And it was coupled up, parking in and charging. So obviously they haven't got enough chargers to the two buses down in the station down there at the railway. But that aside, it's going to cause catastrophe amongst the delivery people in all walks of life and all parts of the world if they suddenly decide we're not going to do any more diesel engines, because you would have to take the weight of the vehicle plus the batteries, which means the load that vehicle is going to be able to carry throughout its working life is going to reduce substantially. So the weight of the batteries to operate a large goods vehicle, 30-odd, 40 ton, is going to be astronomical. So you're going to lose, I would say, about 5 ton of your tare weight on every journey, which is not going to be cost effective. But this is where they're experimenting, like some JCB are experimenting with what was a diesel engine but modified substantially, coming to hydrogen, because the electric batteries, etc., they're not capable of functioning on a heavy-duty vehicle such as excavators, lorries, and as it'll be proved here with this double-decker bus, on hilly ground anywhere like that. And in the winter, when the batteries are depleted a lot quicker, it's not going to be substantial. And the people who are looking for this, it's wishful thinking, I think, on their behalf, because it's going to cost an awful lot of money to for batteries and transport foodstuffs and everything around, well, not just the country, but the world.
I think we've grown to take diesel engines for granted because they're so rugged and reliable, comparatively cheap. I mean, they've been around for years and years and years, 100 years or so. But, we tend to overlook the fact that they've run everything from, generators, trucks, buses, vans, the whole lot, and they never, ever let you down. They're rugged and they're reliable. And I think that's where people get just a bit worried about the fact that at the moment, electric vehicles are in the experimental stage. Of course, for years we had lead-acid milk floats, which were very reliable, but they were only reliable till about midday and then had to go back on charge. But, it's the element of risk, whereas diesels never let you down.
And another question to ask, you notice a lot of the freight trains in the world, particularly in America, and there's a lot of them in the UK, are diesels. That way, they're not restricted to where they can go with their freight.
Absolutely huge diesels, aren't they?
Well, they travel down through and they can go to any station, whereas if you had a fully electrified system, you would have to have electricity going into every station, every siding, for the trains to be operating. So this is something that it's part of the equation, but one part that's been overlooked in a sense. But one of the things, when I did come on, I know you've changed the subject now a couple of times, but when you said about the £50 voucher, actually a good idea, but I think one that would cause an awful lot more problems than it would cure, because it's forgetting the people that come on and off the island who live here. And for them, the people coming over from across, give them a £50 voucher, that would then, well, it would cause problems in so much that the people living here wouldn't be getting one because they're going the opposite way.
Sure, but what do we say to people who our visitors who come over and spend thousands with us? What do we say to them when they say it's very expensive to come over here? I can fly to Spain for £25. I can get a Eurostar to the heart of Europe for £120, and yet you're charging me £900 to bring a car or a van over from Heysham to the Isle of Man. What do we say to them?
Well, it's the same for people that's going off the island. And it's the same, and you hear the same complaint every year when the school holidays start. The prices on everything can double for a family holiday, and that's only just to go and lie on a beach somewhere. But here, they're coming over, and it is freight in a sense. They're carrying stuff in the vans, but this is the time of the year, and I'm not defending to the steam pack to the point where it's legitimate to charge these prices, but it is a means of making money when the season is in being. And okay, you can fly from the Isle of Man. I know it's a friend of mine who goes down to Spain and he gets EasyJet from here right down through to Gatwick, and then from Gatwick down to Spain, and he's got a wee property down there. And you can go down, you can just lie on a beach, but you're coming here to a festival. You go down to Glastonbury, you go to any of the big festivals across, and look at this, a classic example of the Eurovision. As soon as the word that it was going to be Liverpool, the prices, they were actually sending letters to people and cancelling what they had booked the hotel so they could let the room off about 3 times the price.
Okay. All right, Howard, I appreciate that. Thanks for being with us today.
Take care. Bye now.
Okay, and here's Francis. Hi, Francis.
Hi, you're all right?
Good, thanks.
They're talking about thermal energy, and there's anybody not known as a volcano in the Isle of Man?
A volcano?
Yeah, ex-volcano.
Oh, whereabouts is that?
Pooil Vaaish.
Oh, right, yeah. When was it extinct, though?
Sorry?
When did it go out?
Oh, went out a long time ago, but it'll probably be underneath, still sealed, won't it?
Well, it will be right down the bottom. So,
well, they don't go out, do they?
No, that's true. Yeah, they just subside really, or get hemmed in. So we reckon that could be one of the places. Then, do you think there's scope for thermal energy, geothermal on the island?
Well, what else are you going to do for energy? Really, it's all right drilling holes here and there, but why don't you start with the likes of out there? It may be a thing. You only have to go along Pooil Vaaish and see all the volcanic rock there. So,
okay,
there has been activity there one time.
All right, we appreciate. I never knew that, but now we do. There was a volcano, or remains one, at Pooil Vaaish. Thanks for that, Francis.
Oh, it's just about 100 yards before you get to the farm. When the tide's out, you can see the crater still there.
Brilliant. Okay, thanks for that.
All right, thank you.
All right, 19 minutes before 1 on Manx Radio. There was also been talk this week about the fact there's no swimming raft at Ramsey Bay. It was damaged by the waves, apparently. It was anchored in the sea over the Easter holidays, but it's not going to be replaced in time for summer, it being half-term this week. The commissioners say they asked about a replacement, but it would cost, they say, about £7,000. Chair of Ramsey's, Andy Wint, says it's going to be back at some time in the future.
It's not abandoned as such. We're looking at other possible avenues, but it won't be this year, unfortunately. The raft was put out for Easter, and it was too early. It was smashed up in the bad weather. It broke its moorings and it smashed against the wall. And it was a good raft, but we're looking at, like I say, other options, and I can't say what it is at the moment. The costs we've got to find in the next budget.
That's Andy Wint talking to our local democracy reporter, Emma Draper, about this. Have you spotted? I never knew that about the volcano. If you've got any photos, or anybody's got any photos about that, I'd love to see that. The old volcano. Is there a crater at Pooil Vaaish? I've just booked flying from the Isle of Man, Liverpool, for 3 days, 9th to the 12th of June, complete with car hire. Half price, £428 on the steam packet, car plus 2, says Jack. Lots of information on geothermal. If you want to just go online, you can find out all about geothermal. Lots of people want to find out about geothermal. I get notes every day saying, shut up about geothermal. What happens if it's here? What happens if we shut up about geothermal and then found out in 50 years it could have happened and it could have made us a fortune and saved us a fortune? Text of 051 says, Andy, look, vehicle electrification isn't just about global warming, it's about reducing pollution at the point of use. Remember that girl in London who died of air pollution? It was recorded on her death certificate. Texter 051. I'm sick of hearing about green energy constantly every day, says Cliff. Well, it's the future, Cliff, and as soon as we sort it out, then we won't talk about it anymore. Dave says, look, where's the free money coming from? Nothing is free. Everything needs to be paid for. Presumably cutting funding elsewhere to pay for it. Why should I, as a taxpayer, subsidise people who come to the Isle of Man? Nobody pays me to go on holiday. Will the government, a.k.a. the taxpayers, subsidise residents to get off the Isle of Man? I don't think so. I think that's stupid, says Dave. So what do we say to people who say it costs too much to come to the Isle of Man? People who bring lots and lots of money, stay here for 4, 5, 6, 10, 12, 14 days, drop their money here and say, but it's very expensive. I might not come back next year because it costs £200-300 more than really I should be paying. Would it be too much to give them an incentive to say, come and stay, and we will pay?
Fill up, fuel up this TT at EBF service stations. We have everything to keep you going, from a great choice of hot and cold food to chilled wine and beers, barbecue and camping equipment, plus a great range of TT merchandise, including earpiece radios. Locations island-wide. So fill up, fuel up with Ellen Vannin Fuels. Stocks and offers may vary between locations.
You see us at festivals. You see us at the races. You see us everywhere. Because we are St John Ambulance, and we are proud to be a Manx charity. St John Ambulance volunteers help the people of the island when they need them the most. That's why all profits made from our commercial training go straight back into supporting our volunteers and providing opportunities for children from 5 years old to develop life-saving skills. For more information on how you can help, call 674 387.
It's a racing tradition. Head to Wineright and get the week's supply in at the island's biggest town centre drinks warehouse. Beer, cider and wine from all over the world. Your favourite spirits and soft drinks, as well as local brews, gin and vodka, right next to all the snack essentials and groceries you need for non-stop enjoyment. Open 9 till 8 Monday to Saturday, 10 till 6 on Sunday. The Wineright Neighbourhood Food Store. Victoria Road in Douglas, just off Broadway.
Jump aboard the time train and take a trip back to the 1960s on Carnaby Street every Saturday morning at 8:30 with Isle of Man Railways. It's full of 60s hits and memories. On board the time train, Gladys the tea lady.
Right, boys.
Harry the driver.
Hello, crispy old mate.
Roger the fireman.
All aboard Isle of Man Railways time train.
Oh, and Raffles the dog. And of course you and me. You can win tickets for two for one of the Isle of Man Railways fantastic dining car experiences. Carnaby Street, 8:30 on Manx Radio, on AM, FM, online, on smart speakers and all over the world at manxradio.com.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Faster May, good afternoon. Look, it's that time, crikey, it's 14 minutes before 1. We're talking about should we be reducing the price for people coming to the Isle of Man for TT and for Southern 100, of course, and also for the Grand Prix in autumn, in August or so. Is that something we should do, or should we just expect people to pay that money? It's a competitive field, but anyway, we have got a unique offering. Talking about the Laxey Mines, says John, 206. Am I right in thinking they were over 2,000 feet deep? Could that be used for a thermal drill? Just a thought. Well, it's a start. The Great Laxey Mine was, I think, over 2,200 feet, seems to ring a bell. And the Great Laxey Mine was certainly lead ore, zinc was there, and silver. Bradder Head was copper, certainly copper. So copper's very valuable these days, although whether or not they'd start digging in Port Erin again for copper, well, you never know. So Laxey Mine was 2,000 feet and more deep, and whether or not there was a volcano at Pooil Vaaish. That's absolutely fascinating. A message in just from Dick, who just said, after the success of Flume-Free Friday a while ago, can we have a geothermal-free Thursday? Has anybody considered the amount of diesel or oil power that's going to be needed to dig a borehole to a minimum of 5 miles deep, possibly 30 miles to reach any possibly geothermal power? 30 miles? Geothermal power source. And a minimum of £2 million a mile for a hole in the ground. This will be another wonderful way for the government to lose millions. So they're bound to do it, says Dick. Well, something's got to happen, hasn't it, Dick? Because we're going to be reliant on other people's energy. If we're going to import gas to run our gas-fired power station, whether we're going to take energy down the AC cable from Bispam, that's somebody else's energy. The only energy that we make on the Isle of Man, the only true energy we make, is from the tiny hydroelectric plants up by Sulby. That's it. Apart from the few people the rich people who've got their own wind turbines or solar power that they run for themselves on the Isle of Man. If we are, and remember, the government is committed. It's absolutely downwritten in Tynwald that we're committed to decarbonisation. That's their pledge on behalf of us. When are we going to see the MUA price be regulated? The wholesale forward spot price for gas is now almost at 2019-20 levels, yet we're still paying electricity based on the 2021-23 prices. Prices went up this year by 120% above 2019 levels, so when are they coming back down? I think we're being ripped off. So Isle of Man Gas or Isle of Man Energy, MUA, surely should be writing off any debt and get on with charging a reasonable commercial rate for the future. Let's face it, says Matt, if we ever get to a point that we pay people £50 to come here, then it's an admission that everything else has failed. It's false. Do we have to bribe people to come? It's not a good look. Well, I have to break this to you, Matt. At the moment, if you want to say that, we do bribe people to come here. Because every ticket on our heritage railways, every ticket is subsidised by the taxpayer. So when we ask people to go on our unique Victorian railways, the taxpayer is paying every ticket. In fact, about 20 years ago, all tickets were subsidised to the equivalent, I think, of £7 per ticket. So we are paying people to come to the Isle of Man and to enjoy things. Manx national heritage is subvented. The heritage railways are subvented. That's a subsidy, if you like. So we don't charge people the full price to go on our heritage railways because maybe they'd shriek in horror if they had to pay it. So we are subsidising people. Perhaps, if you want to use the word, we are bribing people, because a lot of our tourist destinations are supported by the taxpayer. More messages in today, including in the 60s or 70s, taxpayers had to pay for a gas line to come to the Isle of Man so that we could switch from server to service to get the best prices. What happened to all those that were taxed, says Peter in Douglas. Isn't the sand at Port St Mary Beach black? That is volcanic, says Ed. Is it black? Can we give FC Isle of Man a shout out? We don't have to bribe the football community to visit us. Well, let's give it a and of course, let's give a plug to FC Isle of Man. They got Southport coming. Southport are playing the Bowl as a pre-season friendly, and let's give them, it's their third season, and wishing them all the very best for that. If the hydroelectric works in Sulby, can't we use the current of the Irish Sea? Lots of people talk about wave power, tidal power. The government seems to turn their back on tidal power as much as they seem to turn their back on geothermal. There seem to be all sorts of reasons why we can't have tidal power, and yet there's an enormous tidal reach at many places. Look at Spanish Head, look at Onken Head. The tidal reach is big. Now, whether the technology is too prohibitive in cost, well, we don't know, and we'll never know, really, will we? Chris dropped me a note and said, Andy, talking of people who pollute, surely a lot of the countries in Europe that use coal are polluting far more than the Isle of Man and the British Isles. Well, I've checked this out, Chris, and the biggest sources of electricity by coal, the people who use more coal than anybody else in Europe are, well, you may be surprised, Turkey. Turkey produces electricity and uses coal for the most part. Bulgaria does. A lot of the Balkan states, certainly Serbia, North Macedonia, and also Montenegro, Czechia. Poland is the biggest, the highest carbon intensity for their electricity production. It's 866 grams of CO2 equivalent per kilowatt hour. Sweden's got the lowest, but then Sweden uses hydro. Lots of water, lots of hills and mountains. Also, the biggest user, apart from Poland, of course, is our good friend Germany. And Estonia produces more electricity by coal. So Germany, Poland, Czechia, Estonia, Turkey, Bulgaria, Sofia, North Macedonia, Kosovo, Montenegro, all use coal at the moment. The British Isles is mainly gas, certainly. The Netherlands is mainly gas. They've got a lot of it. Italy uses gas. Greece uses a lot of gas. There is one country in Europe that uses oil. The biggest source of electricity is powered by oil. Can you guess? It is the island of Cyprus. I was also surprised to find out that the biggest source of electricity, hydroelectric, not only Sweden, also Norway, unsurprisingly. Romania uses a lot of hydroelectric. Austria does too. Georgia, but also Portugal. Surprise! Portugal uses a lot of hydroelectric. So there are many things to consider when we come to how we're going to power our future. And to those people who say, why are we talking about this? Well, we're talking about it because it is racing towards us. Absolutely racing towards us. And you and I, the taxpayer, the layperson, we're caught in the middle, the voter. Politicians on one side, big business on the other, big corporations. So you and I are there in the middle. How we negotiate it, well, it may be up to us. It may be who we vote in, but it also may be down to the fact that the Isle of Man is an international business island. And lots of the companies that do business on the Isle of Man have global responsibilities. And if any part of their empire, any part of their network is not adhering to this, they could pull out for reputational reasons. I'm a 70-year-old Manxman. About a month ago, I called into the House of Mannin and was told £13.50 to enter. I thought that was a rip-off, says James. Well, thank you, James. Everything costs money nowadays, doesn't it? Everything costs money. Can you get me a pass for the pit lane on Friday? My great-grandfather is Stanley Woods. I'll try, but I'm not the person you need to be talking to. Tomorrow is Thursday. At the moment, it's not going to be a race day, so we keep our fingers crossed. I want to thank Howard Kane, who's been on the phones today, and lots of messages that I didn't get to, lots of which I couldn't read because they were talking about electric vehicles in disparaging terms. I want to say congratulations, by the way, to Paul Beckett, the island's next Tynwald Commissioner for Administration. He's just been selected. The Tynwald Commissioner for Admin is an independent officer of Tynwald established under the Tynwald Commissioner Act 2011. He's there to investigate and report on actions and alleged service failures of government departments, statutory boards and other public authorities on the Isle of Man. Investigations are undertaken by the Commissioner in response to complaints by the members of public who claim to have a sustained injustice or hardship as a result of maladministration. Well, I'm sure he'll have plenty of work on his hands, and congratulations to the advocate Paul Beckett, who's been selected as the next Tynwald Commissioner for Administration. Right, that's it. Open line tomorrow. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday.